Hello once again. Happy New Year to all. Jim Walsh here on the board. The control panel, as it were, for Extension Connection. We're waiting on Amelia. I think she got held up by the weather, some weather issue. I sure hope she's not trying to ride her motorcycle today.
I believe she...
You know, I actually know a gentleman. I know of him. I don't know him personally. But there's a fellow who lives in Dickinson who writes for one of the national motorcycle magazines. He rides year-round. He's got what they call a moon suit. I call it a moon suit. And he'll actually get on his motorcycle and ride around in this kind of weather. Looks like Neil Armstrong riding on a motorcycle. I guess we should introduce everybody here. I'm Jim, and you, sir, your name is?
I am Bruce Schmidt. I am the newly hired Burleigh County Extension Agricultural and Natural Resource Agent.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Bruce. I don't think we've met before, have we?
No, we relatively new to the community. We moved here a year and a half ago from Beulah and Mercer County. And
okay.
I have 20 years of extension background. With most of that being in Mercer County. And took a few years off, and now we're back here and ready to take on all the challenges.
Now, the extension, of course, goes on regardless of the weather. A lot of people may think, well, it's wintertime. And, you know, people who don't know about farming and agriculture, I think a lot of them tend to think that things just kind of go into hibernation when the weather gets cold. But it's really not that simple, is it?
No, especially if you're talking our livestock producers. You know, they don't get a storm day. They don't get a sick day. They don't get a day off. Their cattle or sheep or whatever commodity they've got, they have to get out there and they have to continue to take care of it. And it's been a rough one already. This whole winter season has been really difficult.
I was going to ask you about that, if this particular season relative to the whatever you would call the average winter here in this part of the country has been a rough one. What specifically is the issue? Is it the snow? Is it the cold? Is it a combination thereof, or what?
You know, I think here again we've had a couple good years of open winter, and now everything is kind of socked in. I think there is an adequate supply of feed out there. But there again, you know, it's buried. Just getting around in the farm, in the feedlots, even for our grain-producing farmers, you know, they got to dig those bins out to get that crop into the market.
Wow!
So there's a lot of extra fuel being spent, and then you compound it with the cold temperatures.
Yeah,
you know, it's just like you and I. We don't like to be out in those vehicles.
No.
And so if you think about trying to start a tractor and, you know, it's 6 a.m. and whether it's 21, 24 below, it's difficult. Yeah.
What about special clothing? I assume, do the folks on the farm equipment, do they have their own version of the moon suit?
Oh, they do. You know, it's one of those things, but you know, it's, you know, that bundling up and unbundling and
dressing in layers.
Yes. Yep, that's the key. And, you know, and then just having that exposed skin. You know, if you think about it, you know, gloves are not that easy to work with.
No, they're not.
With large items, and let alone if you're putting booster cables on the battery or whatever, you know, so oftentimes you take your gloves off and, man, frozen metal.
Yeah. Well, I'm a city boy. I don't deal with the farm equipment so much as I deal with the day-to-day household things. And I find that, of course, the kind of gloves you want for this kind of weather they're more like heavy gauntlet-type gloves, which are not, like you say, are not very productive as far as getting any actual handy work done.
That's right. You know, and you take them off for just a few minutes in that cold weather.
Not a good idea.
No. And then once your hands are cold, you know, they say once your hands are cold and your feet are cold, you're cold.
Yeah.
So
what you got to watch for is when the pain goes away, because then it's frostbite setting in.
That's right.
That actually happened to my wife one time. She was, of all things, a construction worker many years ago. And she had an issue where she got really cold and her feet got cold and there was some pain there. Then the pain went away. And she just happened to mention that to somebody. Oh, my feet don't hurt anymore. I must be getting used to it. No, you better get inside and get those shoes off and we'll have a look.
And I think once you have frostbite,
Yeah.
then I think the occurrence for you to have it again is much more you're much more susceptible.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
Especially in that first year, because it takes so long for your body to heal.
Well, Bruce, we're going to take a break in about a minute here, but before we do, why don't you talk a little bit about what you're going to tell us about in the coming hour?
Okay. We're going to be visiting especially with our livestock producers. There's some things we can do with the feeding. There's a couple of programs out there that they need to be aware of. And especially we're going to be reminding them about a program that is out there if they are experiencing any kind of livestock death losses, especially to the bitter cold and the snowstorms.
Okay, Bruce Schmidt here, our new extension agent for Burleigh County. We will continue with the NDSU Extension Connection in just a couple of minutes. Hang in there.
Right now it's 14 below.
Stay up to date. The Red Eye Radio. Overnight on Super Talk 1270.
Jim Walsh here on Super Talk 1270, Extension Connection, the Burleigh County edition, with today's guest, Bruce Schmidt, brand spanking new extension agent for Burleigh County, in charge of agriculture and natural resources. We're still waiting for Amelia. I understand she is on her way. She's kind of dealing with weather issues, which is perfectly understandable. But Bruce, I know you do want to talk specifically about winter and about what the folks need to know about in dealing with the extremes of this particular time of year.
Right, especially if we're thinking about that livestock producer, and this year has been one of those where we've had warm weather and snow, and then we've dipped down to 20 below, and that fluctuation, and that fluctuation is what's going to put that added stress on our livestock herd. So there is a couple things that the producer can do in order to minimize that stress or to help cope with it. And I think the biggest thing is, if you think of that livestock, that animal out there is almost like a furnace. And if we can keep that furnace stoked with feed, hay, etc., it's going to generate the heat that is needed to make it through these bitterly cold evenings.
I understand, I know people talk in terms of metabolism, and they say it's important that it's important for people too, I guess, this time of year to keep your metabolism up.
Yes.
Which for animals, I guess, would mean, would you feed them more necessarily?
You can, but there is a certain point where, we just can't get enough. And then that's when we're going to have to move into our little more high energy feeds, whether that be our better alfalfas, corn silage, just to again, boost that metabolism. And then the other thing that is getting them into some kind of out of the wind. Let's just call it that. Whether it can be behind a windbreak or, sometimes we always think, well, let's get them in the barns. Mm-hmm. But what can happen is you get that warm moisture and pneumonia can set in.
Oh, God.
So then you have a secondary problem by by trying to keep them warm inside of that, enclosed area. So portable windbreaks, tree shelter belts, whether it be a natural draw. Of course, the natural draws this year are all full of snow. But, those are the kind of things that our producers can do. And another thing that was kind of interesting is feeding the cattle at night. And I never thought about this, but the closer that we can feed them to that nightfall, when the temperature is even colder, they've got that gut full of heat, feed, and that'll help carry them through the colder part of the day.
I would assume that some animals are more, I'm not sure what the word is, evolved to deal with the extremes of the winter weather than others, right?
And if you think about that cattle, they're going to have that heavy winter coat.
Yeah.
And, the critical temperature they're saying for cattle is around 18 degrees. Mm-hmm. So, it looks, it's cold out there. Let's agree with that.
Yeah.
Now there is going to be a few of those cattle that will not make it, whether it be calves or older cows. And I want to remind the producers that there has been and there is still a program out there. It's part of the 2014 Farm Bill. It's called the Livestock Indemnity Program. And this program went into effect, several years back, but it was intended, remember when we always would have these winter storms? I think the last one was the Black Hills, and the livestock producers were just, devastated because their herds, they went into the shelter and the blizzard came and they were froze standing up. So the Farm Bill allows for this livestock indemnity program, which will help pay for above normal death loss. So there's a couple things. It's not a program initiated by us. It's through the Farm Service Agency. But I would tell producers that if you're having death losses, the first thing they should do is make sure you take some photos, because they're going to need some proof. And if you can date those photos, in the timestamp or whatever, that's going to help you with the possibility of getting some kind of payment.
Yeah. Well, what about disease, Bruce? You mentioned earlier, of course, the danger of pneumonia. Again, as a city boy, I would assume that this time of year, the threat of disease affecting your livestock would be even greater by virtue of the fact that these animals are in a small enclosed space or in a barn, and they're all kind of packed in together.
Right. And then you also add on the fact of the stress that they're under. It's just like us, when you're exactly the same things. And there are some things that they're going to have to be aware of, but this time of year, the important thing is let's get that feed. Let's try to keep that water unfroze so that they have a water supply, and they'll make it through.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bruce. We will continue in just a moment here. First of all, we have to say hello to our friend Amelia Doll. Hello.
Hi. Sorry. My kid's teacher. It's my second. It's my youngest son's second day of school.
Oh my!
And of course, they chose today to try and figure out when they're going to meet with him in speech. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I really I needed to be on the radio at 11. It's now 11:07. So I apologize.
That's okay. Priorities.
But I was listening on the radio.
Oh, thank you.
So I learned something.
I think Bruce is doing a fine job here.
As is most of the time that I am with the A&R agent, because even though I grew up on a farm, I had very limited responsibility on that farm.
Yeah, I don't know how many years. Well, let's see. Probably was on the farm 22 years. So a lot of it is trial and error.
Yeah, my responsibility was sorting the cows when we were calving. And I got to do that on my horse, and that's all I really cared about. So,
yeah.
And I had to break up ice, but that wasn't bad because we didn't ever get this cold.
Oh, well.
That I remember anyway. Maybe my parents were just nice and didn't make me go outside.
You better be careful. The listeners might want to hire you out.
Yeah, no, they would probably take one look at me and be like, yeah, maybe not. So were you done talking about cattle and cold weather?
I know that you were going to talk about some of the...
Well, I was going to talk about cold weather too.
Yes.
But fun things to do in the warmer part of the snow. For those of you who are listening who don't know who I am, my name is Amelia Doll. I'm the 4-H Youth Development Agent for Burleigh County Extension. So I do the 4-H program, and I also work with youth development. And part of that, usually when I come on the radio, is I like to share fun activities for you to do with your kids that kind of promote positive development. And with all of the snow outside, and I don't think that I would encounter anybody who says we don't have enough snow.
No.
Because I've come to the realization that if I say the word more snow to too many people, I've had 2 people threaten not to be my friends anymore. So we have plenty of snow. And if your kids are anything like mine, once they're inside for 20 minutes, they're crazy.
Right.
And they need to go outside. And so if it does warm up a little, which it's supposed to, we're supposed to get like a high of 10, right?
I believe so.
Which is like a 20-degree temperature swing. But even if it doesn't warm outside, one thing you can do is bring the snow inside. And so go outside and scoop up a bunch of pails of snow and put it in your bathtub.
Yep.
And let the kids play in it. And you will be surprised at how long they will be entertained with this. And there's very little mess because it all melts and drains down the tub.
And, that would be if they have houseplants. That is, if they want to use that water for their houseplants.
Really?
It's an excellent source. There's
There you go.
No chemicals in it. And,
Look at that.
That's a win-win.
See, and another thing, if you don't want to fill up your bathtub, and if you have younger children, you can put it in like a 9x13 baking pan or on a cookie sheet and give them their plastic dinosaurs and cars, and it's a lot of fun. And then when it melts, it's in prime to dump it into your houseplants.
It's right there.
Unless you're like me and you can't keep houseplants alive. I don't know why, but can you keep houseplants alive? Do you want to admit that as the A&R agent?
I have a very good, knock on wood, history with 3 plants.
Oh, that's good.
So.
Well, I currently have 3 plants in my office, and they haven't died yet, so maybe 3's the lucky number.
Maybe. It's what we can manage.
Exactly. So we're going to take a break here quick, and when we come back, we'll talk about some other fun activities that you can do with your kids to keep them entertained during the winter season.
Right now it's 14 below.
The Red River Farm Network. Ag News is here on Super Talk 1270.
All right, welcome back to Extension Connection. My name is Amelia Doll. I'm the 4-H Youth Development Agent over in Burleigh County. And today with us, which you've heard for the first half of the hour mostly, is Bruce Schmidt. He is our new Ag and Natural Resource Agent. And during the break, we were talking about how Jim was helping him out the first half of our segment because he's new. And while you're new to Burleigh County,
I'm a newbie.
You have history in Extension, so it's great to have you on board and be able to throw ag and natural resource and horticulture and all those questions your way. So before the break, we were talking just very briefly about some fun activities to do with your kids because it is so cold outside. And with all the snow days we've had, which it's crazy the number of snow days we've had.
Right.
And it's only January.
Now, are the schools limiting their time outside? Or are they
don't get to go outside.
That's what I was afraid
like
of.
Bismarck Public Schools, I think if the wind chill is below 0, they're not allowed out. And so what my kids in school have been doing is they have recess in the gym.
Okay.
And so they still get that active time, but that's a good thing for parents to remember. If your kids are going crazy, it's probably because they didn't get that extra exercise and wear out time that they're used to.
They've been indoors all this time, and now they come home and
they're indoors again. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing to do, Mom, and I'm so bored. That's what I get at home. Mom, I'm bored. But some fun things to do with your kids. We talked about bringing snow inside. Another thing that takes a little bit of prep work, but it is fun, is if you have any of those little plastic toys that fit into ice cubes, and if you have an ice cube tray still in your freezer, you can freeze them into ice cubes and then give kids warm water and like medicine droppers and have them be ice architects, recreate the ice age essentially. And then if you're really into making theme days, you can watch the movie Ice Age.
Oh, boy, way to put it together.
Right?
There.
So it's a fun activity, and it will keep them entertained because ice does, and depending on how warm you make your water is how fast the ice is going to melt. So if you want to keep them entertained for a long time, make it like lukewarm.
Yep.
Make sure you don't make it too hot that they burn themselves. But
so you got to plan ahead for this one.
For that one, you got to plan ahead. Yep. Another one is: did you ever make forts with your kids when they were growing up?
Yeah.
So forts are fun.
Our neighbors next door, they've got a fort, and I thought, well, I'm a little bit older, but I could make a fort, and we could,
You could like tunnel to each other.
Yeah.
It's pretty much. I feel like if we get any more snow, that's how we're gonna get to work. Like we'll just have to build forts. I had a class last week, and we asked the kids that were there what their favorite winter activity has been over break. And one girl said, my uncle came and we built a snow fort and we drank hot chocolate in it. And I was like, that's a pretty cool uncle.
Yeah.
Plus 5 points for your uncle because most uncles wouldn't do that.
Now, do you think there's any kind of danger if with the fort possibly collapsing or the tunneling?
Yeah, I would make little forts because we've had so much snow and such heavy snow. Even if you don't do a tunnel, if you just do like dig into the side of the mountain or the side of the snowbank and do it that way, you do need to be careful with anything collapsing. But if you don't want to go outside and help your kids build a fort, you can certainly build them inside with blankets. Did you ever build blanket forts?
Easier. Oh, yes.
Right. Easier, warmer, safer.
Yeah.
The only downfall is they are still inside. So, but they're actively engaged in an activity. And growing up, one of our favorite things to do in our forts was to read books. And so we would build big forts. We'd use the kitchen tables. And my mom is a quilter, and so we had tons of quilts and blankets. And seriously, our forts were our entire living room. And then we would sit in there and we would read books. And if you were really good, you got to have like a snack.
Ooh.
Right? You got some like popcorn while you're reading a book, which was a big deal.
Be a healthy snack, though.
Right. Well, popcorn's a whole grain. Popcorn's a very healthy snack. Just limit the amount of butter and salt on it.
Oh, well, I'll remember that.
Right.
It's tough to do, but I'll
Right.
try to remember.
Yeah. Our food people aren't here, so we can keep that on the sly. But some fun winter books to read with kids if you have those kids in the younger kindergarten to second grade. There's a lot of books out there about snow, and like I said before with the Ice Age, it's kind of fun to tie what you're doing as an activity to what you're talking about. So some books that are good. Magic School Bus. Did you ever read Magic School Bus?
Probably not.
With Miss Frizzle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She
You got to remember, it's been many years.
It's been many years. Miss Frizzle, I was Miss Frizzle for Halloween.
Oh.
And so my son William thought it was so cool because Mom was Miss Frizzle. But Magic School Bus actually has 2 snow-themed books. One is called Magic School Bus Lost in Snow, and that's a good one for your kindergarten and beginning levels. And then there's another one called, where did it go? Oh, Magic School Bus Polar Bear Patrol.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, that one is for your older kids, and that's when they go to the North Pole and they get to meet with different animals, ride a dog sled, and spend time in an igloo.
Wow.
So, Magic School Bus is a good one. Another one, Young Cam Jansen, and this must have come out after my time, but there's several books by Young Cam Jansen, so I'm guessing that, or about Young Cam Jansen, I'm guessing that it's a popular kids series.
Okay.
I don't know.
No,
You're going to have to brush up on this.
I know, because over the Christmas, right before Christmas, became a rookie grandfather. So
right.
I got a little granddaughter now. I got to start looking into the reading to them.
Right. Yep. And reading is really good for your kids. Studies show multiple benefits with reading to your kids, and even just one story a night can help them leaps and bounds.
Yep.
And a kid who is read to when they're young, even if they're a baby, like even reading to your granddaughter now, it may seem like you're just reading to hear yourself read, but it's helping them develop even just the skills of sitting there and listening.
I know one of the, let's see, what do they call that? A shower, for the...
Oh, yeah, the baby shower.
Baby shower. Everyone brought a book.
Yep.
And that was... So there's a collection there already. Now I have to find some sport-themed one because it seemed like they were kind of...
Well, the book you need to get, it's not sports themes, but it's called The Book with No Pictures.
The Book with No Pictures.
The Book with No Pictures. And you'll understand why I said that after you read it. But it's a good book. Both my boys love it. And my daycare just had a baby almost a year ago. And she had a book. Instead of a card, you brought a book.
Okay.
And so that was the book that one of my boys gave her, was The Book with No Pictures.
Wow.
And it's a good one. So you can read books you already have in your house or go to the library and find snow-related books. How about Nancy Drew? Did you read Nancy Drew?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So Nancy Drew has Nancy Drew and the Clue Crew, say that 5 times fast, number 5, and the Case of the Sneaky Snowman. So they build a snowman and then he disappears. And so you got to help him figure out where he is. And then another good series for kids this age is The Magic Treehouse. And they have 2 Polar Bears Past Bedtime and Winter of the Ice Wizard that are good snow books.
Good ones.
So there's a lot of snow books out there, and I encourage you, as you're trying to think of things to do with your kids, as a parent, it's hard. We work all day, and when we get home, you just want to sit and chill for 5 minutes. And especially if you have younger kids, they want to go. So having some of these activities, like, hey, why don't you guys go build a fort? Mm-hmm. And then when you get your fort built, we'll read a book in it.
Right. Yeah, I can remember with all 3 R's, each one of them had their favorite book. And we would read that book, it would seem like every night. Now, is it better to give them a variety?
Well, there's actually some interesting research done on kids and why they like to read the same book over and over again. For their young developing minds, the reason they want to hear the same book is because every time they hear it, they hear something new.
Okay.
And so they pick up on something that they may have not picked up on before. So it's not bad to read the same book over and over again.
Okay.
It's not bad to read different books, but you're not impeding by reading the same book. In our house, those books are Hungry, Hungry Caterpillar, which my 3-year-old says, and 10 Apples Up on Top.
Okay. See, my oldest one was Shoes, Shoes, Shoes. And that has affected her today because she still is, buying shoes all the time.
Loves her shoes.
Yep. And then my middle daughter was, cannot think of Bruno the Beagle. And she's a dog lover.
Okay.
So there again. And then my son, it was a Sesame Street monster at the end of the book.
I love Monster at the end of the book.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually wrote a speech on it in high school when I was running for an office.
And now he did not turn out to be a monster.
You say AC Grover?
Yeah. He was more of a Cookie Monster kind of guy.
But still same universe. Mine was Over in the Meadow. And my mom read it so much that she still to this day can recite the entire book.
Yeah. I without too much trouble, I could pretty well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good
time.
It is good times, but read those books to your kids. So you make forts. Another thing that's fun to do is create an obstacle course. Now you can do this outside if it's nice or inside. And a fun thing to do with an obstacle course is to take like painter's tape down a long hallway and string it all crisscrossy and which way and tell the kids that they're lasers and they have to get through without touching the tape.
Oh.
You will be amazed at how long they concentrate on this. Now make it age appropriate, of course.
Right.
But it's fun to do that and then have them do over your chairs and use what you have in your house because they're going to be in there anyway. You might as well make it fun.
Right.
And then another one to do outside, which I thought was kind of cool, was do a snow maze. And I've seen parents go as far as like take their snowplow through their yard or their snow blower.
Yep.
I don't have a snow blower, so my kids would get the good old feet shuffle maze, but have them go through the maze.
There's enough snow out there you could almost lose them.
Right. Well,
in some yards.
I've threatened to throw my child out in the snow. And I know both the drift in our backyard is so tall that both of our kids, if we dropped them with enough force, you wouldn't be able to see them.
And then there's always sledding.
Yes, sledding is great. There's a lot of places in town to take your kids sledding. And just be careful as the adult being the sledder. I've had a few friends that have gone sledding and forgot how physically challenging it is and hurt a few tailbones.
Yes,
so
that's true.
Yeah. We're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about a few more things. We'll be back after the break.
Right now it's 14 below.
On Twitter, Facebook, online, and YouTube. SuperTalk1270.com.
Down Main Street, you're relaxed and feeling good.
All right, welcome back to the Extension Connection. I'm Amelia Doll, the 4-H Youth Development Agent. I'm joined today by Bruce
Schmidt, Agricultural and Natural Resource Agent.
Yes, and before the break, we talked a lot about everything outside today, really.
Right.
We talked about keeping that livestock warm, healthy, how to kind of keep them alive, yeah. Basically. And then fun things to do with your kids with all of the weather that's going outside. And now for those of you who may live out in the country or in the city, this pertains to both of you, and just some general home maintenance that you don't really think about until there's 50 feet of snow, or 50 inches. 50 inches, not 50 feet. Yep. I might move. There's 50 feet of snow.
Yeah, there is a couple things that we need to really caution our homeowners to be on the look for. And MDU has been doing a good job with their natural gas, making sure that there's no snow and ice on it. But there's a couple other things, too, that our homeowners should be looking at. And one of them is that sewer vent that's on their roof. Now, again, if you're a new homeowner, you're probably not exactly sure what it's going to look like, but it's just going to be a round tube.
Sticking out of the top of the roof.
Yeah. And in extreme cold weather like we're going to be having now, we can get the condensation building up on that, and that's normal. But the worst case scenario is if that freezes, because if that freezes, then the methane, that gas, carbon monoxide, they're going to come back down into the house. So we're going to have to make sure that just to keep an eye on it. A quick fix sometimes is just to put some hot water down in especially in the lower level. If you've got a bathroom that's being used very much, any of the can't think of what they're called. Drains, thank you. Floor drains, putting some warm water down those, that may be just enough to keep them from freezing up.
So just keep that, and you want to keep it iced because uniced because nobody wants to be crawling up on their roof this time of year.
Now, if you have a history of having a problem with that every year, I know in our house that we had in Beulah, it was as simple as a remedy as I had the white stack that came out. I just painted it black.
Yep.
And that was enough. And visiting with the owners this year, that is still enough just to keep it from freezing. So there's those simple little things that, but again, that's something that you would want to do in the fall of the year, in the summer of the year.
When there's no snow on your roof and you don't have to wear mittens to paint.
Right. One of the other things that was very unusual but with all the wind and the blowing snow, we've had a couple homeowners report that they've had snow in their dryers.
Yes, I've had several friends, and I actually came to Bruce one day at work, and I was like, Bruce, why would somebody have snow in their dryer? Because I don't have snow in my dryer, and I can't figure out what my friends are doing and what causes that.
And more than likely, it's the damper or the flap on the outside dryer vent. It's a little older model, who knows? But if the wind is in the right direction, that can actually flip up, and that'll cause the wind to bring in the snow. And if it's a short line, it's very possible it's going to get into the dryer.
And talk about a surprise if you're doing laundry and you open up your dryer to a snowdrift, like you can't get away from the snow.
And, and we may think, well, I'll just turn the dryer on and that'll, cure the problem. But the thing is, if in that line, where as we get further out to the outside of the house, you got that cold temperature and you've got that excess moisture, you're going to have some ice build up. It might not completely block it, but it's going to cause that dryer to have to work harder because it needs that fresh air, exhaust air to actually properly work. So
well, and if your dryer's working harder, you're spending more electricity.
Exactly.
And you have a higher risk of a fire.
Exactly. So again, it's a simple fix. There's a lot of new vent covers on the market. But again, it's one of those deals where I don't get too excited about working outside when it's this cold.
Yeah, me either. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of things that we need to be doing outside. Mm-hmm. So keeping our dryer vent clear, then our sewer thing on the roof,
sewer vent,
and then the natural gas exhaust from yours.
Right. And then, a
furnace.
Couple other things that, we kind of forget. I have a fire plug or fire hydrant right on my property out, and it is our responsibility to keep that as clear as possible. So, the worst case scenario that you can think of is, there is a fire and when they show up and they can't find the fire plug or they have to dig it out, and those few minutes can make a big difference.
Well, and a lot of people think that, it's so cold there isn't going to be any fires, but there's been several locally where right after the recent storm, the fire truck actually couldn't get close enough to the house. Right. And so doing everything that you as a homeowner can do to help is going to only benefit.
Right. And we always talk about checking your, like if you got a carbon monoxide tester or a fire, smoke detector, check those batteries because, now in some of our homes too, we've got more of the electric heaters going, maybe in an entryway or a colder part of the house. That's going to put more pull on the electrical, which, it can ignite. And so, let's just go out there and start the new year and let's test them again and change the batteries.
You should have changed your batteries when you fell back with the what is that called?
Daylight
savings times. There we go. Wow, that was a struggle. But if you haven't,
yes,
you need to be doing that. And even if your batteries aren't dead, I mean, how are you going to know?
Just give them a test.
Well,
you know?
and I don't know about at your house, but it seems like at my house, the smoke detectors the batteries always die at like 2 a.m. and you can never figure out which one it is. And so you lay in bed listening to the chirping
Where's
sound.
that chirp coming from?
Yep.
Yep.
So just be proactive with that. So is there any other things that we need to be kind of watching for at our homes? Our mailboxes, I know we had kind of mentioned that one during the break. Yep. Our mail service is still running. And
so anything we can do there, you know, like we have the community box and it's down a couple, you know, a little bit further from our home. And so I'm just so glad that he does a wonderful job.
Right.
He goes out there with his snowblower and blows it out but yeah, let's just think about those things, because there again, that's just going to help them with the jobs that we kind of rely on.
Right.
Anything we can do to make it better is going to be appreciated, I know.
Yep. And know whether your mailman is a letter carrier, walks or drives, because like at my house, my mailbox is on my house, on the side of my house, so the mailman walks our route, which would be brutal. But at work we have a gentleman who drives and delivers our mail, so you need to make sure that if you do have a driving one, while you may be able to walk out of it and get out of it just fine, your letter carrier doesn't get out of his vehicle at every single mailbox.
We're going to have to open it up that much further. So I know I dug ours out at
you did it this morning. I came in at just the right time, just as you were putting your shovel in the truck. It was great.
And I tested it, so I drove my vehicle
I was like, wait, did he shovel and now he's leaving? Like, does he think that's all he has to do today?
Well, it should have been. You know, another thing that I just thought of, you know, in our newer homes, we are so, you know, the chimney is always out the roof. Mm-hmm. But in the newer homes with air exchangers and the new high-efficiency furnaces, they are out the side of the house. So there may be a chance for some of those that are in those newer homes that they're again, I mean, we had some banks 6-8 foot up our house. Yep. And so maybe take a good look at where those intake outtake vents are, and make sure that, you know, they can build up with ice also and
make sure
plugging.
They're clear.
So,
there's a reason that our houses have all these pieces and parts going out. Yeah. And one thing that we've made sure to do at our house is we have a front door and a back door, and making sure you keep both exits clear. Both for the event of an emergency. And during our last storm, we couldn't get out our front door because it blew such a big drift. And so thankfully we were able to get out the back one and shovel ourselves out the front. So it's important to, even though it's cold and it's miserable, keep your exits clear.
Yep. Or your egress windows.
And your egress windows. That's a big thing too.
That may have filled in.
Yeah, because now if they're filled in, you won't be able to get out. But in the spring, which is supposed to happen sometime, you're going to end up with a lot of water and moisture in there, and that's not a good issue to have. We don't need water in our basements any more than we need snow on the outside of our house.
Banks is close to the house. There's going to be a big enough problem just with that alone.
Yep. Well, I think that's about all we have for our show today. Again, this is Burleigh County NDSU Extension. Today, you were joined with Amelia and Bruce, and if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at our office at 221-6865. Have a good week.